Hello everyone. Welcome back. It is already time for another reading wrap-up video and stuff. So this one is May's reading wrap-up. It's crazy. Felt like I just finished May's TBR video not too long ago. And now we're here talking about all the books I read. And going back to the May TBR, I had it where I picked 5 books for that video, and I finished 4 of those 5. I did finish the 5th one. It's just going to be after in May because I finished it in May and I don't count that even though it's close. I know some people do. I don't. Like I said, the month I finish it in is the month it's going in. So the book that I did not finish from May's TBR was Six of Crows. That will be included in June's because I did read it. I just didn't finish it in time. So, but all in all, I did read 6 books. So I read 6 books. 2 of them were not on my TBR. One was a book I read April, March, whatever month is before May. I read it near the end of that and didn't finish it until May, so it got included in May. And that is gonna be Ice Planet Barbarians. I needed a quick and easy read, and it was Ruby Dixon, and I was like, oh, she should be quick and easy. I forget how much Ruby Dixon, although her books are kind of like fun, flirty, kind of smutty, that they're not really like quick and easy to devour, kind of, because you have to like get understanding of certain things. So this one took me a few days because I had to understand about the main character. What's her name? Georgie. And I understand what she was going through. And then when she did finally meet the alien, whose name was like Bechtel, yeah, trying to understand his point of view, because it did give his point of view, was a little harder to get. But it wasn't a bad book. It was interesting, but not the greatest. I think I gave this like a 3.25, I think. So not too bad. Guaranteed star ratings are going to be up on the screen. If you haven't watched mine, I will try to remember. I'm not the best at remembering. So guaranteed ratings will be on the screen. I will try to remember and say them. Another book that was not on my TBR that I read this month was Nightmare Before Christmas. This was the first book in the Royals and Romance book series. I read the second book on accident called Go Luck Yourself. Didn't know it was a series until I started reading it. And so I figured, to get even better understanding of that book, I should read the first one. And that's this one. And even though I understood or knew kind of the plot that was going to happen because of reading the second book first, it was kind of interesting because this one, it kind of delved more into like how they found out about the issue and the problem and stuff. And I did find it interesting. I didn't like this one as much as Go Luck Yourself and stuff, mostly because although I understood Cole and his problem and how he was struggling, and how in a way everyone didn't want to take him serious because he made jokes instead of dealing with the actual problem, he also kind of understood like deep down inside that like, hey, we're supposed to be bringing joy to these people, and it feels like we're not doing enough to bring actual joy and stuff. So it was interesting and stuff, but I didn't like connect as well with him and stuff. And then like their storyline kind of was interesting, but also like it didn't have as much what's the word? It didn't have as much intensity and like yearning and kind of like the bickering and bantering as back and forth as much as the second book, Go Like Yourself, with his brother Chris and the St. Patrick's Day Prince. So this one I think it was a 4.5. Again, star ratings will be up here. But it was pretty good. I liked it. I do like her stories, and I am checking out more of her catalog of books to try and see if there's more. So there's that. And now these books are all going to be the ones on my May TBR like jar picks. So first is The Enchanted Greenhouse. This is the second book from the Spell Shop. I don't remember. I think this series is called the Spell Shop series. I'm not 100% sure. I did look it up. This is currently the most up to date. There is a third one coming out, but I think it's next year, if not the end of this year. So, but this one has to do with, what is her name? Turlu, I think it's it. I don't know how to pronounce it. But basically, she's the librarian who casted the spell that made Kaz, who's from the first book. And she was not supposed to do that, so she got turned into a statue as her punishment, because librarians aren't supposed to cast spells. Only like sorcerers who've gone through training and all that are supposed to. So she gets cast as a statue as her punishment, to be like a symbol also for other people to realize that, hey, like, this is dangerous, don't do it, or you're gonna end up like her. But then she wakes up one day. She catches glimpses of when she's a statue, but then she wakes up one day so confused, because she's like, I can feel the cold, I can see snow, I can like move and do stuff, right? And then she realizes that she's no longer a statue, and she's like, someone had to cast the spell to undo me being a statue. So she goes looking, and she runs into this greenhouse to get away from the snow as well. And she finds out that it's not just one greenhouse, it's a big old like maze of greenhouses. And then she runs into Yarrow, who is the one and only gardener who's taking care of these greenhouses. And he apparently had it where he got sent Turlu as someone who could help him with his problem, which is the fact that the greenhouses are dying. And he needs a sorcerer to be able to help him save them. And so he gets some help in the form of Turlu, who's scared and terrified because, again, the last time she did magic, she got turned into a statue, and she doesn't want to do that again and get sent back to being a statue because she didn't want to. So it's interesting. It's funny, kind of. I really like this one. This was really good. I think out of the month of May, this was probably my favorite one. There's just a lot of stuff in it where it was like you could see her struggling so much with like how she wants to do the right thing, but she's so worried because she had it where she got kind of in trouble and burned. And so she's kind of debating, always going back and forth of like, should I do this? And then realizing like I have to do this. I can't not do this. This is helping these plants. This is helping him. This is helping like restore something that is wonderful and nice and magical, and something that somebody worked really hard to make and create, and things are happening. So this one I think I gave also 4.5, but like I said, I think this one is my favorite from this month. So next one is my memoir biography. That is the Beyond the Wand, which is Tom Felton's memoir talking about what his life was like being an actor during the Harry Potter, and how he was trying to basically still be a kid while filming those movies and stuff. And I don't give ratings for nonfiction. Nonfiction. I still mess that up. But I don't give ratings for nonfiction, but I like this one. I did talk about it a lot in my vlog where I was doing reading, but I did like this one. It did delve into him trying to be a normal kid while still filming, and talked a lot about his way of trying to approach acting as a kid and stuff. And it was really interesting, and I learned a lot. So there is that. Next is Razor Blade Tears by S.A. Crosby. Cosby, not Crosby. Cosby. This is a kind of thriller, almost kind of mystery kind of. And basically it follows two fathers. Their sons were married to each other, and they both were murdered. And now they're trying to figure out why, who did it, what happened and stuff, because the cops aren't getting anywhere. This one faces a lot of kind of racism and homophobia as well, because one side of the family is an African American family who deals with racism and stuff, and also to the both sides of the fathers, both of them have gone to prison and both are released. And the African American one, Ike, he is trying to do well. He's been doing well. He's resisting the urges and all that and stuff. But what was his name? Buddy. Buddy is on this other side. He got out of prison. He's kind of also trying to do better, but he's struggling a little more and stuff. Both of them have it where, again, they have prison history. They both have their sons were married. They both have it where they didn't accept their sons being gay. They didn't accept their sons getting married to each other, all this stuff. But they still love their kids. They just couldn't accept who they were. And so in this book, they're kind of learning how to accept that, like, they missed out on a lot of things because they couldn't just accept it and couldn't realize that, like, their sons were happy with each other and all this stuff. So it's kind of one of those things where they're learning to grow, learning to accept things, while also trying to figure out who killed their sons and why. And I thought this was pretty interesting, but it wasn't like the greatest to me. Like, I liked it, but it wasn't like wonderful and fantastic in my opinion. Like the ending too, it was a little sad, but like nothing that like made me like burst out into tears, because again, they're not the greatest parents. And when they talk about their stuff, you can still see that like they're not the best people and stuff. So like the buddy guy, like I said, he's a white guy, redneck, and all that. And he said some pretty bad things about African Americans or black guys in the story as well. And the Ike guy is like trying to correct him and stuff, and like being like, hey, I will beat you up if you don't shut up. And so, like I said, they're fighting that as well. But it's like one of those things where it was a little difficult and a little harder to like kind of sympathize to with them because of it. But it was a good story. I think this one I gave like a 3.5. Again, I'll put it up there. But that one, like I said, it was interesting. I like the writing. That part was really good. So I might have to check out some more S.A. Cosby and see when I'm in the mood for some more thrillers or something. But that was a pretty good one. And now we move on to LiQWYD. This one, I have it where I did talk a good chunk about it in the reading vlog that I did, I think a week or two ago. So I'm not going to go too much into detail, although I think that reading vlog, I ended on page like 300 because I was struggling. Like the first part, you're trying to get all this understanding of the world and what's going on and like all the different like vivimancer and animancer and metallurgists and different like things like that. And like that was a lot just to take in for the first like 100 or so pages. And then of course you're dealing with some other stuff that's just dark and like not as happy, obviously. And like I've seen a lot of people say once it hit the second half, it gets better. And I hit the second half and it did kind of get better because then you went into the past from like when Helena, she's the one you're following in the story, when she was like in the war, you go into it. And like the past with her and Luke and like everything that's happening, like not the very beginning of the war, but like kind of when the war was like still in the beginning phases or whatnot. And like it still was a lot because then you're still learning about all this stuff and all these people and trying to keep track of all their names and like who they are and how they're important and what do they do and all this. That it was hard. For me personally, it wasn't until after like page 500 that I really started to get invested in this. And mind you that this is the longest book I have ever read, at being over 1,024 pages. And like I said, I was struggling. And once I got to 500, it was like that. I was going so fast. Like my middle daughter, I would tell her like, oh, I'm on this page, and she would like try to do the math. And she's like, oh, you're 490 pages away, right? She'd do that. And like I was flying by once I got past 500. Now, my only issue with this is that the ending to me, like, it closed off clean and neatly and like made sense, but it was also very like this was 1,000 pages, and like the ending just seemed to be like you went up, and you're here at this top climax where you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And then it just went flop all the way down, just flopped. Like I didn't feel the intensity in the stuff that's going on. Like I get it and I understand it, but it was just the ending. I thought it was going to be so much more intense and harsh. Like the ending in part 2 of this book is how I thought the ending of the whole book was kind of going to be. And it fell short, and like it ended nicely, but also like there's some things that it was rough and it was difficult and I wanted something else and stuff. So this one was only a 4.25. Like it was still good and I still liked it a lot, especially near the end, but the fact that it was slow to get into, even after part 2 came, I wasn't into it as much, and it took almost half the book to get into, is kind of where I was like, oh. But it was interesting, and there's a lot of stuff in here where it's dark and hard and difficult. But I also like the fact that it was like one of those things where it wasn't just Helena who was struggling. It was other people who talked about like their struggles as well with what was going on and all that. So this one was a 4.25, but that one was hefty. So those are all the books I read in May. Like I said, I didn't finish my May TBR 100%. I did, but I didn't. I finished a first 1,000-page book, which I'm super happy with. You know, I've read 800-page books or slightly over 800-page books, but I never thought in my time that I would read a 1,000-page book and stuff. And mind you, that I know in my future I have another 1,000-page book coming, and I don't know how I feel about that one either. But that one has it where it was part of a series, and it's the end of a series that it's the 1,000-page and stuff. So I have to see how that's going to be as well. but I still got time for that. But like I said, this wasn't as bad as I kind of thought. Like I said, I for some reason thought Razor Blade Tears was going to be a lot more like darker and harder and like more difficult, and it wasn't as bad for me, which I don't know if it's because again I was reading Alchemized also kind of in between, or if it just didn't phase me as much. I don't know. But tell me what you guys read in the month of May. Did we read any of the same books? Do we have any of the same ideas, thoughts, and tastes? Tell me all your thoughts. And if you guys like watching these videos and want to keep seeing what we're reading on here, make sure you like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye.